He tried to humiliate me by ending our wedding. I took quiet revenge. He tried to humiliate me by ending our wedding. I took quiet revenge. Revenge stories. What happens when the person you love most tries to destroy you in front of everyone? In this powerful episode of Revenge Stories, you'll hear a shocking, true-to-life story about betrayal, public humiliation, and a calm, calculated comeback no one saw coming. When my wedding was suddenly canceled in front of friends and family, he thought he had won. What he didn't realize was that silence can be the most dangerous weapon of all. This story is not about screaming or chaos. It's about patience, strategy, and letting karma work on your behalf. As the truth slowly unfolds, every hidden lie comes to light, and the balance of power shifts in ways that will leave you speechless. Stories like this are why Revenge Stories continues to resonate with millions who have faced injustice and emotional betrayal. If you've ever been underestimated, mocked, or pushed aside, this episode of Revenge Stories will hit close to home. It reminds us that dignity, self-respect, and quiet strength often lead to the most satisfying outcomes. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and letting those who hurt you watch from the sidelines. Join the conversation. Have you ever experienced betrayal or public humiliation? How did you handle it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video. Subscribe for more emotional, real-life revenge stories that prove karma never forgets. Thank you for being part of our growing community. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful revenge stories that inspire strength, healing, and justice. Revenge stories, quiet revenge, wedding drama, betrayal story, karma stories, emotional stories, true life drama, tags, revenge stories, quiet revenge, wedding humiliation, betrayal story, family drama, emotional revenge, karma stories, true life revenge, storytelling channel, dramatic life stories. At a Saturday lunch table, my fiancé announced, "The wedding is canceled. It's done." He said it clearly, so everyone could hear. I smiled and responded, "Thank you for your honesty." I removed my ring, pocketed it, and mentioned a freedom party. The room went quiet when I shared one detail. "The wedding is off. I don't love you anymore." He said it loud, like he wanted the whole place to hear. We were sitting in an Italian spot in Portland, Oregon, the kind with cloth napkins, dim lighting, and those little bottles of olive oil on the table. Saturday lunch rush, families, retirees, a couple celebrating something with balloons tied to their chair. Suddenly, every fork stopped moving. I froze with a bite of chicken parmesan halfway to my mouth. My name is Claire Whitman, and I'm 59 years old. Yeah, 59. Old enough to know a public scene when I'm being dragged into one. Across from me sat Evan Mercer, 61, my fiancé. We'd been together 6 years, engaged for 2. He had picked this table, right by the front window, like he was setting up a stage. And the worst part? At the table behind him sat 3 people I recognized from his office Christmas party. Not close friends. More like his fan club, smiling like they'd paid for tickets. Evan watched me the way a man watches a slow-motion car wreck. Expecting smoke, expecting broken glass. I surprised him. I set my fork down gently, wiped my mouth, and said, "Thank you for being honest." His eyebrows jumped. Just a flick. Like the script in his head had skipped a line. I reached for my engagement ring. Gold band, small diamond, nothing flashy. And slid it off slowly. Not because I wanted to be dramatic, because I wanted to be clear. I dropped it into my purse like it was a house key I no longer needed. Then I took a sip of water. Calm. Measured. One of the guys behind him snorted like this was going to be funny. Evan leaned back, smug. "Claire, did you hear what I said?" "Oh, I heard you," I said. "Wedding's off. You don't love me. That's plenty." He was waiting for tears. For bargaining. For me to beg like some sad daytime TV character. Instead, I pulled cash from my wallet, 2 crisp $50 bills, and placed them on the table. Enough for my meal, plus a good tip. The waitress had done nothing wrong. She didn't deserve to be collateral damage. That's when the small twist hit me. Because as I stood up, I noticed one of those men. Short hair, blue blazer, had his phone angled toward our table, not texting, recording. My stomach didn't drop. It went cold, like stepping into a lake in March. This wasn't a breakup. This was a production. I smiled anyway, because I suddenly understood the trap. If I melted down, he'd have footage. Proof. A story he could replay for anyone he wanted. I leaned in just enough for Evan to hear me. "You picked a great setting for this," I said softly. Crowded, witnesses, cameras. His smile tightened. I straightened up, looked at the people watching, and said, "Clear and steady? Well, I guess congratulations are in order. You just gave me my life back." And I walked out. Outside, the air smelled like wet pavement and car exhaust. Typical Portland. My hands weren't shaking until I got to my car. And when they finally did, it wasn't heartbreak. It was rage. Clean, focused rage. Because I realized something sitting there behind the steering wheel. Evan didn't just want to leave me. He wanted to leave me looking guilty. And if that phone video existed, I needed to know what else existed too. I didn't drive home right away. I sat in the parking lot, engine off, watching rain collect on my windshield. Portland drizzle. The kind that soaks you slowly if you don't notice it. My phone buzzed once. Then again, Evan. That didn't go the way I expected. "Evan, we should talk like adults." I turned the phone face down. For 6 years, every hard moment in our relationship had ended with me talking like an adult, which usually meant apologizing for emotions he'd caused. Not today. I drove the 10 miles back to my condo near Selwood, past gas stations flashing $4.89 a gallon, past the Fred Meyer where I used to stop after work to grab rotisserie chicken on nights I was too tired to cook. Normal life. Familiar life. The one I'd slowly rearranged to fit around him. Inside my condo, everything was quiet. No photos of us on the walls. Those had come down months ago, though I'd told myself it was just decluttering. Funny what the body knows before the brain catches up. Another buzz. "Evan, you're in shock. This isn't healthy." That's when the second twist landed. Because the word shock wasn't concern. It was pre-written. I'd heard it before. Years ago, when my older sister divorced her husband. He told everyone she was emotional, overwhelmed, not thinking clearly. It bought him sympathy. It bought him time. Evan wasn't confused by my calm. He was threatened by it. I poured a cup of coffee. Decaf, because at my age I respect my sleep, and sat at my kitchen table. Oak, scratched, paid off. Mine. And that's when I remembered something that made my chest tighten. All our planning files, the wedding folder, the shared cloud drive Evan insisted we use for organization. I opened my laptop. What I found at first looked normal. Guest lists, vendor contracts, seating charts. Then I saw a subfolder I didn't recognize. Priority, after lunch. Timestamped, created 2 weeks ago. I clicked it, and the silence in my condo suddenly felt very loud. The folder opened slowly, like my laptop needed a second to brace itself. Inside were documents I had never seen. Not drafts, not half-finished ideas. Clean, organized, labeled with the kind of confidence that comes from believing you're untouchable. The first file was a guest list, but not the wedding one. This list had 38 names, mostly Evan's people. Co-workers from his logistics firm in Beaverton, a few extended family members, 3 neighbors from his old condo complex. And next to each name was a note. Notify immediately after lunch. I clicked into the document history. My breath caught. Created 14 days ago. Last edited the night before our lunch. This hadn't been emotional. It hadn't been sudden. It had been scheduled. I scrolled down and found the message he'd written. Ready to send. Earlier today, I made the difficult decision to end my engagement with Claire. This wasn't easy, but I realized I could no longer continue in a relationship that had become emotionally unpredictable. I appreciate your support and discretion as I move forward. Emotionally unpredictable. I read it twice. Then a third time slower. 6 years together. I paid half the mortgage, drove him to knee surgery, sat with his mother through chemo appointments at Providence St. Vincent, helped his daughter move into her first apartment with boxes from Home Depot and a rented U-Haul that smelled like old plywood. And I was emotionally unpredictable. That's when the memory clicked. The phone at the restaurant. I opened another folder. Messages. There it was. A group chat titled Saturday Crew. Evan. 3 men from lunch. 1 woman I didn't recognize. The messages started early that morning. Evan. Today's the day. 12:30. Same place. Mark. Finally. Tom. You sure about doing it this way? Evan. I need witnesses. You'll see. Mark. I'll record from the side. Discreet. I pushed my chair back from the table and stood up, heart pounding. Witnesses. Recording. He wasn't just leaving me. He was building a case. I sat back down and kept digging. That's when I found her. The woman from the group chat. The only one whose name wasn't familiar. Lena Brooks. There were direct messages between them. Weeks worth. Then months. Short calls at first. 5 minutes. 10. Then longer. 30. 45. I checked our shared phone plan. Same number. The first call was logged 5 months ago. 5 months. While we were finalizing catering menus. While I was picking neutral linen colors because bold tones weren't professional enough. While I was canceling brunch with my friends because Evan said weekends were our time. I didn't need to read the messages to understand what they meant. He had a replacement lined up, and suddenly the public breakup made sense. This wasn't about ending things. It was about transitioning cleanly, with me carrying the mess. I sat there until my coffee went cold, staring at the screen, feeling something strange settle into my bones. Not grief, clarity. The next morning, Evan's text escalated. This silence is immature. People are asking questions. You're making me look bad. There it was. I wasn't emotionally unpredictable. I was non-compliant. I didn't respond. Instead, I made a list. Yellow legal pad. Pen that smudged a little. What do I control? My story. My behavior. The evidence. The venue deposit. Non-refundable under my name. That last one made me pause. The venue. The wedding reception was booked at a renovated warehouse near the Willamette River. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs, valet parking that cost $35 and made Evan feel important. Deposit already paid. I called the coordinator, Janice. We'd worked together before, back when I ran corporate retreats. She listened quietly. I can't refund the deposit, she said, but I can convert it into another event. Another event. The idea formed before I finished my coffee. Can I use it next month? I asked. She hesitated. What kind of event? A celebration, I said, of a new beginning. Janice exhaled. Honestly, that sounds healthier than most weddings I host. I hung up and smiled for the first time since Saturday. That night, my best friend Marilyn came over with grocery store sushi and a bottle of Kendall Jackson. She was 67, sharp as a tack, the kind of woman who reads contracts for fun and never misses a detail. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she nodded once. He wanted you unstable, she said, because unstable women don't get believed. Exactly. We planned quietly, methodically. No revenge posts, no vague Facebook quotes, no late-night texts. I sent out invitations that said nothing about Evan. Please join me in celebrating a new chapter. Life has a way of opening doors when others close. That was it. The guest list was intentional. My people. My family. Colleagues from my old career. And this part mattered. A few names from Evan's priority list. Let them see me for themselves. Let them compare notes. Meanwhile, Evan spiraled. I heard it through mutual friends, through side comments, through the sudden increase in calls I didn't answer. He was telling people I was having a breakdown, that the party was concerning, that I'd lost perspective, but something wasn't landing, because the woman they'd seen calmly walk out of that restaurant didn't match his story. 2 days before the event, I got a call I didn't expect. Evan's sister, Rachel, mid-50s. We'd never been close. He preferred it that way. I'm not calling to take sides, she said. But I've been thinking. She paused. I watched you for years, she continued. You never raised your voice. You never caused scenes. If anything, you disappeared. Disappeared. That word sat heavy. The night of the event arrived clear and cool. Early fall, jackets weather. The venue looked nothing like the wedding we'd planned. No white, no symmetry. Warm colors, sunflowers, local wine. A jazz trio from NW 23rd playing soft in the corner. People arrived smiling, curious, hugging me longer than usual. And then the questions started. What happened? What really happened? I told the truth, calmly, factually, with timestamps if they asked. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't editorialize. And the truth did what truth always does when it's steady. It spread. Around 9:30, the energy shifted. Whispers, side glances, phones coming out. Not to film me, but to verify things. That's when Evan walked in, uninvited, button-down shirt, jaw tight, eyes darting. He crossed the room like he was marching into court. "You're destroying me," he hissed. I met his eyes, steady. "No," I said. "You planned that. I just stopped participating." Someone behind him gasped. Someone else started recording. Not me. Him. He looked around, realized too late what he'd done. The witnesses weren't on his side anymore. And for the first time since I'd known him, Evan Mercer had no script. Evan left that night without another word. No shouting, no dramatic exit. Just a man realizing far too late that the story he'd spent months constructing had collapsed under its own weight. Here's the twist he never saw coming. I didn't win because I exposed him. I won because I didn't need to. The evidence mattered, yes. The messages, the timing, the planning. But what truly dismantled his narrative was something far simpler and far harder to fake. Consistency. I stayed calm at the restaurant. Calm in the weeks that followed. Calm at the party. Calm when he tried to provoke me in public. People over 60 know this truth well. Character isn't proven in speeches. It's proven in patterns. Evan needed me to fall apart so he could justify his choices. When I didn't, his version of events made no sense. The ethical question answered itself. Who was acting with integrity? Who was performing? A year later, my life looks quieter and fuller. I run small events again. I sleep better. I laugh without checking someone else's mood first. That lunch in the restaurant wasn't my humiliation. It was my release. And the lesson I carry forward is this. When someone tries to destroy you publicly, don't rush to defend yourself. Live in a way that makes their story impossible to believe. That's not revenge. That's freedom.